Okay, welcome back. All right. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off. So we left off with intervals. So now let's talk about a couple different ways to describe a melody. So, one of the ways to describe a melody is to say that it is conjunct. And if we say that a melody is conjunct, we mean that it moves principally by small intervals in a joined, connected manner. So we can look at a melody like Ode to Joy. I'll play it on guitar. Let's see here. And while I'm playing this melody, Ode to Joy, that is a conjunct melody, I want you to notice my left hand, right? This one. Does it move around very much or no? Okay, here we go. Primarily just kind of stays in this area. Now, compare that with the Star Spangled Banner melody, which I would say is more like a disjunct melody. Here's the Star Spangled Banner melody. So we have our. Notice that when I play the Star Spangled Banner melody, I kind of have to jump around a little bit, right? I go, and now I'm up here, and then I got to go even higher, right? Then I'm coming back down, then I'm going back up. So, melodies that move by larger, disconnected intervals we call them disjunct melodies. So we could say that the Star Spangled Banner melody, since it kind of moves in large intervals, right? As you can see with my left hand, I got to kind of start here and go up here and then come back. That's a disjunct melody. Whereas Ode to Joy, I'm just kind of staying in one spot. So that's more of a conjunct melody. Okay, let's move on. Next slide, number 7. Okay, a phrase. What's a phrase? So in music, I'm gonna give you a definition of a phrase, and it might not make sense yet. It might seem kind of confusing or abstract, but bear with me. I'll give you some examples, and I think that'll help clear it up. So, a phrase. It's a unit of meaning within the larger musical structure, much like a sentence. Much like if you're reading a book or an essay or a newspaper or an article on the internet, you're reading a sentence, right? So, but in music, it's a phrase is kind of like a sentence, but instead of words, it's melody, right? So a phrase is composed of melody instead of words, right? You can think of a phrase kind of like a musical sentence. That might still be kind of confusing, but okay, let's go to the next slide, slide number 8. Let's look at Amazing Grace. This song here, Amazing Grace. So with Amazing Grace, we can see on this slide here, number 8, on the right side, we have phrase number 1, phrase number 2, phrase number 3, phrase number 4. So each one of these parts of the melody, each one of these little melodies here is a phrase, right? This is like a musical sentence. Let me play a little bit of that. I'll play it on the piano. Okay, I'll play phrase number 1, right? So we'll go. Sorry, let me try that again. really a pianist. So, okay, so that was a phrase. That was like a musical sentence, right? I'll play phrase number 2. That was phrase 2. Now we'll play phrase number 3. So that's phrase number 3. And now I'm going to play phrase number 4. Okay, so those are phrases. Let's go to the next slide, even if it's not totally making sense yet. Maybe this next part will help you even more. So let's talk about something called a cadence. So cadences are related to phrases. So what's a cadence? A cadence is a resting place where a phrase ends. Right, so if I'm looking here at my Amazing Grace, and you can even go to the next slide, or I mean the previous slide, to kind of look here. So here's my phrase number 1. Where's the end? It's right here. So I circled the cadence in this red ink. So there's a cadence. That's the end of the phrase. Make sense? Okay, we'll go back to slide number 9. So we can think of a cadence as a resting place where a phrase ends. So a phrase or a cadence is kind of like punctuation. If a phrase is like a musical sentence, the cadence is like the period at the end, or even like maybe a comma at the end. So some cadences can sound conclusive, like that's okay, this is the end of the tune, right? The end of the melody or the song. Whereas other phrases can end with a cadence that sounds kind of inconclusive, where it feels like this doesn't really seem like the end of the song. We need to keep going with this song. So let's look at Amazing Grace again. So you can go back to slide 8. Let me play one more time here. So, and I want you to listen for the cadences. All right, does it sound ended or not? So here we go, and I'll kind of point it out too. So we'll go. So there's the cadence. This note doesn't really feel like the end though. So keep going. Now I'm going to play phrase 2. Still doesn't really feel like the end. It's like, no, there's more to go here. So we'll keep going now. Phrase 3. Still doesn't really feel like the end. It's still like an inconclusive cadence. So now phrase 4. That seems like the end. So phrase 4 ends with a more conclusive cadence. So when you're listening to music in this class and beyond, just in your everyday life, start to see if you can notice where, if someone's singing, right, where they take a breath, right? Or perhaps if you're watching a trumpet player, or any kind of wind player, where do they take a breath? Where they take a breath it's likely a cadence, right? Here, I'll demonstrate a little bit on this recorder. Notice that I take a breath on the cadence, right? Because that's sort of the end of the musical sentence. Now I can breathe again and get ready for the next phrase. It's a lot like, when you're just reading out loud. Notice you read a sentence and then you take a breath. So you get the idea. I hope. Okay. So, all right, let's move on. So that's phrases and cadences. Slide number 10. So let's talk about the rhyme scheme. So, rhyme scheme is the manner in which words rhyme within the musical structure. So, let's look again at Amazing Grace. Let's go to the next slide, and let's just read the words. So we have Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Now ask yourself, which words rhyme in this? Specifically, which words at cadences rhyme? Well, if we see Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. I'm talking about phrase 1. We end with the word sound, right? And then, does that rhyme with anything else in here? Any other cadence? It does, at the end of phrase 3, right? I once was lost, but now am found. So sound and found rhyme. So we're going to call those A, right? Anything that ends with ound, we'll say that's A, as far as the rhyme scheme. Now, we noticed that phrase 2 and 4, hopefully you noticed, also rhyme. So, right, that saved a wretch like me. So me rhymes with C. So we're going to call these B, right? So what's the rhyme scheme? The rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B. So that's how rhyme scheme works. We'll talk more about a rhyme scheme a little bit later in some other songs. But for now, let's move on to our next slide, slide number 12. So, what is a climax in music? So, a climax is the highest point of melodic line. Climax represents a peak in intensity in a song, right? For example, in the Star Spangled Banner, by the way, I included a link to this on the slide to YouTube. There's a part kind of near the end, but not totally the end, but kind of near the end, that reaches the highest pitch, right? So when you watch this video and you listen to Whitney Houston singing the Star Spangled Banner at some Super Bowl in like the 90s, I think, notice the point at 2 minutes and 55 seconds. At that point, Whitney Houston is singing the highest pitch in that song, right? We could say that that climax is the highest note of the range, right? Because remember earlier we talked about range. What's the range again? It's that distance between the lowest and highest pitch in the song. And the climax is that highest pitch of the range, right? And this part at 2 minutes and about 55 seconds, you'll hear Whitney Houston. She sings the highest note of the range of this song, the Star Spangled Banner. So listen to that. Maybe pause this right now and click on the link and listen to it and see if you can hear that climactic point, that climax of the Star Spangled Banner. All right, let's move on to our final slide for this lecture for melody. Let's talk about counter melody. So counter melody means literally against a melody. Maybe that doesn't make sense yet. Don't worry though, I'm going to give you an example. I think it'll clear it up. So a counter melody happens when two or more different melodies are occurring at the same time. right? So maybe that's a little confusing. Let's look at an example. The examples always help clear things up. So go ahead and actually don't click on the link yet. Do it after. Just listen first. So I'll play it. I'm going to start this video at about 44 seconds because that's where it starts. And this is, so what we're going to see here in this video, we're going to see 4 different musicians. We're going to see 2 violinists, a viola player, and a cello player. And so what happens here is we see only, when we first start this video, we see one violinist playing one melody. At that point, there's no counter melody going on, only just one melody. But then, shortly thereafter, another violinist comes in and plays a melody, while the first violinist keeps playing something else. So at that point, they are playing a counter melody. And then the viola player comes in and plays a melody while the 2 violinists keep playing. And so then there's 3 counter melodies, and then the cellist comes in and it's another counter melody. So just listen first. And then pull up this video after. Okay. So up to this point, there's just been one melody, right? Just one violinist playing. Now, we have 2 violinists playing at about the 57-second mark. So at this point, now we have a counter melody, right? The second violinist is playing a different melody against what the first violinist is now playing. Okay, now at this point, at about the 1 minute, 10-second mark, we have the cellist enters. Now she is going to play a melody that's a counter melody against what the other 2 violinists are playing, right? So at this point, we have 3 different melodies happening at the same time. Okay, keep listening. Okay, and then at this point, about the 1 minute, 23-second mark, we have the viola player comes in. The viola kind of looks like a violin, but it's a little bit bigger. So the viola player comes in, and he's playing his melody now against the other 3. So now we have 4 different melodies occurring at the same exact time. So this is the idea of counter melody. We'll keep listening a little bit. Okay, and again, you don't have to watch this whole video. I mean, it's like over half an hour long. Just watch this kind of beginning part and really listen for, close your eyes when you're listening to music. Right, and really listen, see if you can hear these different melodies happening all at the same time, these counter melodies. Okay. So this concludes our first video lecture on melody. Our next video lecture will be on rhythm. I'll see you then.